He had been stealing from me for months, right from my own backyard. Bold as you like, and he had absolutely no idea that I knew. Most people, when they find out a neighbor is stealing from them, they do one of two things. They either knock on the door and start a fight, or they let it go and quietly fume about it forever. I did neither. I waited. I planned. And then I hit him with 2 rounds of revenge so perfectly timed, so devastatingly simple, that when the dust finally settled, he wasn't just embarrassed. He was in handcuffs. This is the story of the gas thief next door and the 2 traps that ended him. Let's go back to the beginning. I am a pretty ordinary guy. I own my home, I take care of my yard, and I mind my own business. I have a lawnmower, a small garden, and out on my back patio, I keep a 5-gallon gas can. Nothing fancy, just fuel for the mower when I need it. Now here's the thing about a 5-gallon gas can and a lawnmower with a 1-quart tank. The math is simple. Even if I mow every single week, that big can should last me an entire season without needing to be refilled. That is just how the numbers work. So imagine my confusion when I keep walking out there and finding it nearly empty. Every time. Week after week. At first I thought I was imagining it. Maybe I had been using more than I realized. Maybe there was a slow leak somewhere. So I started paying closer attention. I checked the can. No leak. I tracked my mowing. No change. And yet, the gas kept disappearing. Now I had a neighbor. I'll call him Danny. Danny was the kind of guy who was always around, always outside doing something, fixing this, moving that, borrowing things from people. He had that energy about him, you know the type. The kind where you're never quite sure if he's being friendly or just scouting what you own. I had a suspicion it was him, but suspicion is not proof, and without proof you have nothing. So before I did anything, I needed to see it with my own eyes. This was before cheap security cameras were everywhere. So I improvised. I had an old laptop gathering dust. I set it up near my back window, angled it toward the patio, and installed motion detection software. It would record automatically anytime something moved out there. Then I went about my normal day. 3 days later, I checked the footage. There was Danny, clear as anything, walking straight into my backyard, picking up my gas can, and helping himself. And you want to know what made it worse? He did it 5 minutes, literally 5 minutes, after watching me leave the house in my car. He had been watching my schedule. He knew exactly when to move. I now had him on video, crystal clear, and here's where most people would have marched over there, shoved a phone in his face, and started screaming. And honestly, I get it. That would have felt amazing for about 30 seconds. Then it would have turned into a he said she said mess, maybe some broken fences, definitely some sleepless nights. No. That was not the play. I wanted something better. I wanted him to humiliate himself, and I wanted to watch it happen from a safe distance. So I made a plan. Here's what I did. For the next 7 days, every single time I needed to use the bathroom, and I mean every time, I used the gas can instead. Let that sink in for a moment. By the end of the week, that 5-gallon container was full. It smelled exactly how you would expect a gas can that had been sitting in the sun to smell. Distinctive, convincing. The cap went back on and the can went straight back to its spot on the patio, looking completely untouched. Now, the second part of the trap, I needed Danny to take the bait at exactly the right moment so I could actually see the payoff. So I made it easy for him. On the day I was ready, I made sure Danny could see me from his yard. I walked out to my car, I opened the trunk, I started loading bags, luggage, a cooler, the whole production. The message was obvious. I was going somewhere. I would be gone for a while. The coast was about to be completely clear. Then I drove away. I went and ran a couple of errands. Gave it about an hour. And when I came back and turned onto my street, I nearly had to pull over from laughing. There was Danny, standing in his front yard, in full crisis mode, yanking the cord on his lawnmower over and over again, pulling it again, staring at it like it had personally betrayed him. The mower was not starting. It was not going to start, because the tank was full of something that was definitely not gasoline, and it got better. A little while later, Danny needed to go somewhere. He got in his car, he drove off, and within just a few blocks of his house, his car broke down on the side of the road, because he had put the rest of the can into his own gas tank. He had stolen it, carried it home, used it himself, never once questioned what was in it. The 5-gallon can on my patio, empty again, right on schedule. I will be honest with you, that right there would have been a perfectly satisfying ending to this story. The thief got his. Justice was served in the most poetic, disgusting, deeply funny way imaginable. I could have called it even and moved on with my life, but then Danny made one final spectacular mistake. A few weeks passed, life went back to normal. Danny was keeping his distance, probably still trying to figure out what had happened to his mower and his car, and I was content, quietly satisfied, done with the whole thing. Then Danny came over to ask me a favor. He had filled out an application for a police ride-along program. You know the kind, where civilians can spend a shift in a patrol car and see what law enforcement actually does day to day. He had filled out the form with all his personal information, and he needed someone to drop it off at the sheriff's department for him. He figured since we were neighbors, since we were friendly enough on the surface, maybe I could help him out. I said sure, no problem, I'll take care of it. Now sometime before this, I had been talking with a friend of mine who works at the sheriff's department. Just a casual conversation. And he had mentioned offhand that when people apply for a ride-along, the department runs a standard background check. They check for outstanding warrants. It is just part of the process. Routine, automatic, nothing unusual about it. I thought about that for a moment. I thought about the gas can. I thought about the video on my laptop. I thought about Danny helping himself to my property like it was the most natural thing in the world. And then I drove to the sheriff's department and handed in Danny's application. Every field filled in. Every piece of personal information exactly as he had written it. I submitted it on his behalf, just like he asked. The department ran their check. Danny had outstanding warrants. I do not know what the warrants were for. I never asked. It was not my business to ask. All I know is that the information on that application was accurate, the submission was legitimate, and the authorities did what authorities do when they find someone with active warrants on record. They picked him up. Danny, the man who had walked into my yard 5 minutes after watching me leave, who had stolen from me for months without a second thought, who had helped himself to a gas can he had no idea was a trap, was arrested. He had handed me the weapon, I just delivered it to the right address. Here's the thing about this story that I keep coming back to. At no point did I confront Danny. I never raised my voice. I never knocked on his door. I never accused him of anything to his face. I just gave him the exact amount of rope he needed and watched him use it. The first trap, he walked into it willingly. Nobody made him steal that gas. Nobody made him pour it into his own car. The second trap, he built it himself and handed it to me. I just made the delivery. There is a certain kind of person in this world who believes they can take what they want from the people around them without any consequences. Danny was that kind of person, right up until the moment the handcuffs went on. So here's what I want to know from you. Was what I did justified, or did I go too far by submitting that application? Leave your verdict in the comments, and if you have ever had a neighbor like Danny, you already know how you feel about it.